You're listening to Teracota Chronicles, where broken pieces find their way back to wholeness. The house wasn't perfect. It wasn't my dream home. The neighborhood wasn't exactly what I had envisioned, but it was what we could afford on one income at the time. And that was important to me, that we didn't live beyond our means. So, compared to where we came from, this was extraordinary. We had spent our lives surrounded by city noise, sirens, traffic, and concrete. This was different. This felt like breathing room. We closed in August of 2017. Now, this was just 8 months after we got married. And looking back, I can see things that I didn't notice then. His promotion, the house, the move, everything seemed to be unfolding just at an incredible pace. We closed within 5 weeks. People say that's unheard of, but we did it. I hadn't begun exploring spirituality beyond the framework that I had been given. So at the time, I didn't have a language for what was happening. I didn't call it manifestation, it was blessings. I only knew that somehow life was moving fast. And suddenly, we were homeowners. We had a home. The boys had their own room, everyone had space. Now I'm just working on and waiting for this baby girl that I wished for. And for me, that meant everything because in my marriage, my first one, peace was something where we were chasing it all the time, but never quite catching it. There was always a struggle, tension, a feeling that we were falling behind. Now I stood in a house with keys in my hand, realizing something important. I had done this. I had learned what was required. I had figured out mortgages, researched financing, avoided mistakes, navigated an out of state purchase, and my husband trusted me to lead the process. For the first time in a long time, I felt secure. I relaxed a little bit more. I started investing in the house, little projects here, little projects there. And that was the beauty of the house not being perfect, because then I could add my own touches and really make it my own. This was exciting. We were talking, or at least I believed we were. We enjoyed music, we loved comedy, we laughed, and in my mind, we were genuine friends. I also knew that if we were going to create the kind of life we talked about, something had to change financially. So I returned to school, not because anyone forced me to, not because I was dissatisfied with my life, but because I could see a future than the one that I was currently living. And it required me getting into a career that offered long term stability, options, and financial growth. Now, you would think because I had my bachelor's already, I didn't need any additional education. And in an ideal world, that would be the way it goes. But in the new region that I lived in order to earn a substantial financial reward from the toils of your labor, there was an industry that you got into because that's where you could make a real living. We did discuss him going back to school, but it was something he did not want or have the motivation for. So, if it were going to be, it would have to be up to me. And of course, I welcomed the opportunity to learn and to grow because I wanted the financial freedom. I wanted the ability to provide for my children in the ways I hadn't been able to before. Most of all, I really wanted growth. And education seemed like the bridge between where I was and where I hoped to go. So while We settled into our new house and adjusted to the life in the South. I began reinventing myself professionally. Around this time, another journey quietly began, one that would eventually change my life far more than buying a house ever would. I started asking questions, not surface level questions, big questions, questions that had been sitting silently in me for years. Who is God? Not who someone told me God was, not the denomination and what they said it was, not what the pastor was saying God was. Who is God really? It began as a whisper in my heart, and then suddenly it became a conversation between my husband and I. And then it became a quest. And we would spend hours talking about faith, history, mysteries, things I never would have allowed myself to explore before: UFOs, religion, ancient civilizations, Christian history, the foundation or formation of belief systems. Now, keep in mind, this is all self led learning. I'm not in school for this. I am just hungry. So I began seeking out the Apocrypha. And for those of you that don't know, those are the books that were left out of the 66 canonized Bible scriptures or books that we are told are considered the holy books. And I won't go into all of that here. We're going to keep it focused on my second marriage. But this is where it began. This is where the break, the depth, the study, the hunger, and the desire to know more of God began to crystallize for me. The more I learned, the more curious I became. And that curiosity was not necessarily new for me, but it was good and it was healthy for me, because I had spent most of my life believing that questioning was dangerous, that faith meant accepting what you were told, that seeking too deeply somehow reflected back as a lack of trust. But something inside of me was changing. And for the first time, I wasn't satisfied with the inherited answers. I wanted understanding. And without realizing it, I had begun a journey that would eventually dismantle almost everything I thought I knew about myself, spirituality, and the nature of reality. With these questions, I unknowingly opened a window. What I didn't know then was that my search for God was about to become something far more personal. Because the first truth waiting on the other side of that window wasn't about religion at all. It was about me. And rushing through it came a truth so profound that it shattered the first illusion upon which my entire existence had been built. You've been listening to Teracota Chronicles. And if something in my story resonated with you, if it mirrored your life, your questions, or your own awakening, I hope it reminds you you are not alone. I'm not here to perform or present a polished version of myself. What I'm offering is honesty. And if you choose to stay with me, this story is still unfolding. I'll return with the next part. Be open, be well, and be at peace until we meet again.